Welcome back to the preview show. I'm Casey Campbell. Below is Jonathan Fiel, and to my left is Mitchell Brewer from News from the Pits, formerly Popular Speed. Oh boy, we're here to talk about New Hampshire and some more things, especially with today's big announcement. I felt like with today's announcements, we need 3 people. Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
If only there was news that was going on today, Casey.
What is the go? Oh, we got some big news today. Of course, we're talking about, you know this by now. Team Penske announced today that Austin Cindric will be driving the number 2 Ford Mustang in the NASCAR Cup Series next year. And probably the announcement that probably caught a lot of people off guard is that Harrison Burton will be driving the number 21 Ford for the Wood brothers in 2022. So Harrison's going to the Cup Series next year. Of course, replacing, that means Matt DiBenedetto is not coming back to the 21. And for Team Penske in the number 2, the team confirmed what we've all known for months, that Brad Keselowski will not be returning to Team Penske. And of course, in case you haven't heard, it's been reported and it's also been confirmed that he is going to Roush Fenway Racing. That hasn't been announced yet, but we all know what's happening. Okay, let's start with Mitchell. What do you think about the announcements today from Team Penske? Were you surprised?
It's kind of funny that like Austin Cindric becoming the driver of the number 2 and Brad Keselowski leaving Team Penske. That's kind of like an afterthought of all of this, because it seemed like it was pretty, I don't know if it was obvious, but it seemed like it was going in the direction that Max Benedetto wasn't going to be coming back. But Harrison Burton, I think, is one that's going to catch a lot of people off guard by that, just because like he was a Toyota Golden Boy, and all of a sudden now he's a Penske Golden Boy. He's no longer affiliated with Toyota at the end of the year after being with them, I think he said, since he was 13, which is that's just absolutely wild to hear about.
What do you think, Jonathan?
Yeah, I think earlier in the week we heard the rumor from Door Bumper Clear about how the driver of the 21 would be somebody who had been on the show previously this year already, and it sure enough came true. Harrison Burton's going to be in that car. I think he's going to, Wood Brothers Racing mentioned that he's going to be a long-term driver for that team, and I think they have somebody very good for that team, and getting that team established, it's going to be interesting for the future to see for Harrison.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be. I had heard about that this was going to happen, and somebody confirmed this to me last night that it was going to go down. So it kind of surprised me at first, but then it didn't, because we've seen this the entire time, and I think it was Eric Estep who mentioned this today in his Out of the Groove show. Another driver is leaving the Toyota camp. Mm-hmm. Someone that had a lot of promise, someone that still does, and building them up, and then now they're going to take opportunities and stuff. We of course we saw it last year when Eric Jones left. So yeah, another one. And I know Toyota's working on this. I know they would like to have more Cup cars and all that stuff. But your thoughts on that? Someone else leaving the Toyota camp after so many years.
Yeah.
I think that it's kind of interesting. Now you look at like somebody like Haley Deegan. Me and you, Casey, talked about this a little bit. She all of a sudden, like, regardless of how you think she's done at DGR, she kind of looks smart leaving Toyota, because who knows what her plan of attack would have been with Toyota. Now she's got herself an opportunity, and it seems like it's a lot of question marks with the Toyota development program right now. Once you get to KBM, then what? And if you're not able to produce John Hunter Nemechek like numbers, are you just going to be out on your feet? It's creating a very interesting dynamic, and I think it's one of those really big storylines to follow in those lower tier NASCAR series, along with in Cup, like you mentioned, with Eric Jones no longer a part of the Toyota camp, Harrison Burton no longer a part of the Toyota camp. You got to wonder about like guys like a Christopher Bell. If he can't like all of a sudden start putting up better numbers, is he in trouble in future years? It's very interesting to watch.
Yeah. What do you think, Jonathan?
I think it's interesting with the prospects of the possible second 2311 car possibly coming along too, of how they're looking more for a veteran, looking for somebody to get that car going who isn't necessarily somebody they're going to bring up from the Xfinity series. Kurt Busch's name has been floated around. I think it's interesting to see, and it'll be interesting too to see who moves up to the Xfinity series. Of course, John Hunter Nemechek has been putting up good numbers, like you mentioned, Mitchell, and also has the experience too of being in the Cup Series and Xfinity, and just you look at guys like Chandler Smith who are going to be coming up pretty soon here. Where's he going to go? Even Ty Gibbs. Obviously, I think Ty Gibbs is going to find a pretty good spot somewhere down the road, but just where these guys are going to land and if they're going to have to go somewhere else, or if 2311 will expand, or if there'll be something else that comes along, it'll be interesting to see for Toyota. Ford has got a very good situation right now, though.
Yeah, and here's the thing, and personally, I think but once Kurt Busch decides what he does, I think that holds a lot of keys to what everybody else is going to do. So depending on if he goes to 2311, depending on if he goes to Trackhouse, who's going to go where, and I think a lot of that's going to be solved once Kurt finds out Kurt announces what his plans are for next year. There's also another thing that we need to keep. That's a point of interest to a lot of people. What Matt DiBenedetto does, because I'm pretty sure you both saw his Facebook post today of the video that he put out, and it was I've known Matt DiBenedetto for a long time, and from the time I've known him, he's always been pretty open and pretty honest, with all of us, and he was open and honest with today. I gotta ask you guys, where does he go next? Because who knows? Start us off, Jonathan.
Yeah, so I just, it feels like heartbreak, a heart-wrenching moment for Matt. I know a lot of people have mentioned maybe he could go to the 22, but just from the sounds of it, the 22 Xfinity Series ride, but from the sounds of it, it just doesn't seem like there's a future there for Matt at Team Penske. Very unfortunate. Matt mentioned too during that video that the team has struggled throughout the season to get that chemistry hit, and then finally he feels like they are on track for that, and now this has happened. So I think it's too bad to see for Matt, but I can't help but think something is going to happen for him. I mean, we've seen this happen with the 95 ride, with the 21 before. But I think it's going to depend on just how he performs for the rest of the season, because if he can put up some good numbers and put his money where his mouth is, I think he could probably land something. I don't want to speculate or anything, but I'll throw this out. Trackhouse Racing mentioned that there was a rumor that went out that Trackhouse Racing has someone at the top of their list that is unexpected from who might take over that second car. So maybe it could be Matt, maybe it could be somebody else, but I think we'll have to see with Matt, because this is an interesting spot that he's in.
Yeah. What do you think, Mitchell?
I think it's very interesting, and especially right now with some of the stuff that he's been talking about on Sirius XM, where he talked about where they asked him, "Do you think you should go back to Xfinity your trucks?" And it was kind of a "No, I belong in Cup" kind of answer. But the thing is like, where are you gonna go in Cup if you belong here? And him and Ross Chastain are gonna be the guys to watch as far as what are they gonna do. And Ross Chastain maybe brings a little bit of money from the watermelon farming, but like neither one of these guys are fully funded drivers, and it's just very interesting. I mean, there are opportunities. You got like Colleague, who announced that they have AJ Allmendinger for part of a schedule with a charter team. Obviously, there's got to be a driver in there. Maybe he squeezes in there, but it's definitely something to watch. And I think I'm of the belief that I think that Kurt Busch is going to end up in that second 23 XI car. It's that second Trackhouse car is just very interesting to me. That one's almost more interesting to me than the Kurt Busch announcement. That maybe he'll surprise me with that, but it's just, there's a lot of dominoes falling. Matt DiBenedetto, he's been in this situation before, and props to him because he's gotten out of it and made a better career for himself. But again, it's just one of those moments where you almost got to feel for the guy, because it's just like, what do you do?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because here's the thing. I think that Matt DiBenedetto is somebody that we've all known, but to be honest with you, he has not performed this year. Yes, he's performed in the last few weeks, but for most of the season, he has not been running well. So, I mean, what are you going to do? So, I mean, I do expect Matt to find a ride somewhere. I mean, he's not. He is well determined to find something, and it could be in the Cup Series, but I mean, how surprised were we when it was announced that Matt DiBenedetto was going to go to the 21?
Yeah, that's true. I was walking into class that day. I read my phone. I was like, wait, what? Paul Menard's retiring and Matt's replacing him. It's just like, where in the world did this come from? And that's the one positive thing that Matt does have going for him is just that unexpectedness to land rides where you think that he's out and he comes right back in. But yeah, it's just, and that was another thing that really, you brought up his performance, Casey. That was one thing that kind of surprised me in his Facebook video was he was very open and honest about how the 21 team was broken. And it's just like, you don't get a lot of like that clear of honesty from race car drivers most of the time. And like you said, it's just Matt DiBenedetto just being very open and honest. And that was something that kind of was just like, whoa, he's really pulling back the curtain with this one.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely interesting for sure. So yeah, and then and then one more thing, we'll touch on this, and we'll go to some other headlines this week. Brad, we all know where he's going. But he is. I mean, this is the first time that we've heard directly from Team Penske, and you were both on the call today as well as I was. I was out doing some things, but I was on there for a portion of it. But this is the first time that Team Penske has acknowledged that what Brad is leaving, but they also kind of talked about what Brad has meant to the organization. And another person that was open and honest, Roger Penske. So kind of go through what he had to say today.
Yeah, I guess go ahead. Roger was very open about just saying Brad gave the team credibility, especially in the way of Discount Tire and the relationship he has had with Discount Tire. Of course, going back to his 2010 Xfinity Series title, running Xfinity races, the Cup sponsorship, giving credibility to the team and helping boost that relationship, giving Penske the first ever NASCAR title, the first ever Cup Series title too. Uh, that was the one thing that Penske touched on was just massive amounts of praise and overall just a sense that the deal just didn't work out. Mitchell could probably touch on this a little bit more with the option that Brad had last year, but Keselowski wanted something with ownership. Penske couldn't offer that. A very amicable split, very respectful split that's coming from this, and very interesting to see Penske like name drop Roush Fenway too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was that I bouncing off of Jonathan's points. Yeah, it was just very interesting it's like you always like when you hear about breakups and stuff, you never hear about them going well. Usually somebody's talking bad about somebody else. But this one, at least from Roger's standpoint, was very, very kind to Brad. And you don't see another thing you don't really see that often with NASCAR silly season is just the owner speaking very highly of Brad and being very open and honest about the contract negotiations where it sounded like Penske, like you said, wanted to keep them, but that ownership play, which is just becoming this big thing in NASCAR now, was the thing that drove Brad to what will presume to be Roush Fenway Racing. And it's just unreal. I mean, you think of the number 2 car, especially in the last 10 years, you think of Brad Keselowski, and that number 2 car is so good about creating legacies where it's just weird whenever somebody leaves that car. It was weird when Rusty left. Obviously, Kurt had the big split with Penske. It was weird when he left and gave that right to Brad to begin with. And now it's just weird for Brad. And it kind of, in a weird way, kind of circles back to where Brad was when he started with 2. And now you got Austin Cindric where he is, where, yeah, they've had some success, but they're, for the most part, kind of unproven. And it'll be interesting to see if Austin Cindric can really continue on that legacy, especially since this is the flagship car and he's going to be a rookie in the Cup Series next season.
Yeah, I mean, he has run some cup starts and he has impressed, but it's definitely going to be interesting to see him run the full season. Okay, besides that, there's a lot of other things that happened this week, but that was pretty much the big announcement. Well, Kyle Larson got extended to a deal. I mean, that's kind of overshadowed now. He's going to be with 23. HendrickCars.com is going to be the primary sponsor for that. It's it for like 35 races, and the others ones I think are Valvoline. But that's a big deal and a big commitment to Kyle Larson. And of course, we all know what he's been through in this last year. But to see him get what he's gotten this year, it's pretty good. He's making the most out of the second chance that he has been given, I should say.
Huge, yeah. Hendrick Motorsports, they of course put Hendrick cars on the car as a way to fill the space, fill the void. But what's happened, I read about this when they did the announcement, is that the dealership partners that Hendrick has saw this and were very happy with the return on investment they were getting from it and decided, hey, we want to keep this space for Hendrick Cars and keep this space for Hendrick Automotive Group. So yeah, 35 races and then 3 races for Valvoline. That is a huge thing, especially in modern NASCAR, where we often see, piecemeal sponsorship deals where it's 12 races, 10 races, 5, 3, 2, 1, etc., etc. So great thing for Kyle Larson. Great to see performance be rewarded too.
Yeah,
And it's super interesting too, because one of the big things with Kyle Larson when he was coming back was sponsorship, and is anybody going to put their name out there with him? And now all of a sudden that problem just doesn't exist anymore because of HendrickCars.com. And it's just crazy to see how that's all worked its way out and how Kyle Larson has really bounced back from all of this.
Yeah, for sure. And of course, Hendrick's not new to these types of deals before. Alex Bowman has a similar type of deal with Ally Financial. They're on the car every week. So, for the full season. So and obviously, I think Jeff Gordon's had it when back when he was running in DuPont, now Exalta. So it's been done before. So big primary sponsorship, which you don't see, but when they happen, it's still big. So from that, it's good to see there. There's another thing. One more thing, and then we'll get to New Hampshire. But closing the chapter on Atlanta, we saw it with Chip Ganassi Racing. We all know what they're doing next year. Not racing NASCAR. And then Kurt Busch goes out and wins that race in Atlanta. Maybe battling with Kyle Busch, and then the whole thing with how he got the win. How impressed are you with Kurt Busch every year? Because it seems like he always finds a way to win every single year, no matter what car he's in.
I think this is the third last career win that Kurt has had in the Cup Series. I still remember the 2018 Bristol night race where everybody was thinking, Kurt has done very well at this track. This is a great final win. Kentucky, Las Vegas. Now we have this. But personally, I'm going to take the reporter cap off for just a second and go with a little bit of a fan perspective. How interesting to see Kurt Busch, go out and lead laps and, dominate a race like that 21 years into his career, and sort of from the old guard of NASCAR go out there and do that. We've been talking on the show about new drivers and young drivers coming in and, taking their places, but Kurt is still out here, and I think it's great to see Kurt still have success and still put on good performances like that, showing he's a valuable asset too.
Yeah.
Casey, I think you said it best on Twitter the other day, where you said that he was one of the most underrated drivers in NASCAR history. And I absolutely agree, because everywhere Kurt Busch goes, and this is why teams should, even if it's you got maybe one car open, you should go and talk to Kurt Busch, because this guy knows how to win. We saw it with Roush. We saw it with Penske. We saw him run really good with Phoenix Racing. He turned Furniture Row into a team that could possibly be a championship contender. And now we're seeing it again. And it's just like, this dude even if he's one of the older guys, he is probably one of the top NASCAR free agents that's been around in the last couple of years. I mean, if you exclude Kyle Larson, it's just like this is the guy that I think you absolutely need, especially if you're a 23 XI or Team Trackhouse, to build your team, because it's just you get that leadership presence, and especially with Trackhouse and or 23 XI, you got guys like Bubba and Daniel Suarez. No disrespect to them, but they could use a veteran guy like Kurt Busch to really better themselves. We saw with Kyle Larson with Kurt Busch for a little bit, where he was able to step up his game too. I think Kurt Busch is a magnet to success, and I think he makes everywhere he goes better.
Yeah, of course. It's what he does, and there's no one like Kurt Busch. Okay, there is a race this weekend. Well, there are several. New Hampshire. This is the last race before the Olympic break, and then after that, it's a straight shot to the championship, starting at Watkins Glen that first week of August. But as you know, as we got the Cup Series, Xfinity Series, you know, the modifieds are there, a typical stop in New Hampshire. So you know that the Ryan Preeces and the Ryan Newmans of the world are going to be in there. But it's definitely the Magic Mile for a reason, and it's going to be a good show. We'll get to picks in a minute, but what are you two watching out for?
I think I'm watching out for the bubble battle, especially in the Cup Series. You know, it's at this point, I think we may have talked about it too. It's win and you're in for the bubble. There's something like 96 points between 16th and 17th in the playoffs for the Cup Series. And I think at this point, it's going to be all about getting wins. And, you know, you have people like Matthew Benedetto, who is below the cut line. You have Daniel Suarez, Bubba Wallace, different drivers who have speed. Even some of the Stewart Haas racing cars. You have Eric Almirola's performed well earlier this year at Richmond. They need a win. They need to do something. So I would watch out for some of those drivers who need to get a win, need to do something to save their season effectively.
I'm going to bounce off of Jonathan there. I'm going to kind of steal his point because I absolutely agree. And that's just been so fascinating to watch. I brought this up a couple times on Twitter. You have a guy like Chris Buescher who was in by 60 points a few weeks ago. He's got to win to get in now. And it's just like, and we may be giving these guys a little too much credit because maybe they don't have like the best shots of winning. But we have seen unexpected winners at New Hampshire before. It wasn't that long ago we saw Brian Vickers at Victory Lane at New Hampshire. It's going to be interesting to see if one of those guys and see if like that desperation picks up. Because I mean, you got a schedule full where wildness can happen. You got Watkins Glen, you got that unknown Indy road course, and you got, of course, Daytona at the end of the regular season. Could this racetrack potentially be somewhere where maybe things get shaken up again? Because I mean, how many people had Kurt Busch dominating and winning last week? Who knows? At this point, who knows with the NASCAR season? It's just so many unexpecteds that are going on right now. And it's just, will that trend of unexpectedness continue? Or are we going to see something like Kyle Larson dominating again? That's something that I'm kind of looking to see.
Between silly season and how things are going in these races, I don't know what to expect anymore. So I have no idea. So if you guys know, you better let me know because it's going to be fun. All right. You know what time it is. It's time for the picks. So for the Xfinity race, let's start with you, Mitchell. Who you got, bud?
Big news week for him. Big announcement week this week. I think it's going to be Austin Cindric. I think he gets the W in New Hampshire.
All right. What you got, Fiel?
Not to be unoriginal, but we were reading each other's minds. I got Austin Cindric.
Yeah, I'm not going to be. We are not doing what we did last week, Fiel. We picked the same exact drivers, and we're not doing that this week. I'm going to take that 54 car. Christopher Bell is going to go to Victory Lane at New Hampshire. It's first time that he's back in the Xfinity Series. Good to see C Bell back in that All-Star car, of course. And then Ty Gibbs will be back in there the next 3 weeks when Watkins Glen and the Indy Road Course, and then at Michigan. So definitely going to be fun to watch there. All right, next up, the Cup race. Who you got?
I think I got to go with Denny Hamlin. He's yet to win a race this season. I think New Hampshire is a great racetrack for him. I think Denny Hamlin gets it done.
Mitchell Brewer.
You know what? I'm gonna go with somebody that you picked earlier, Casey, for the SRX preview show. I'm gonna go with Chase Elliott. I think he gets it done this weekend.
Yep, that's definitely where it's going to come at. You know what? I'm going to pick someone that's angry, someone that wanted to win last week. Yes, I'm going to go with Kyle Busch. He's going to get it done this week at New Hampshire to close it out. Well, that's going to do it for the preview show. We're not going to be here the next 2 weeks. We got Arca Menard series stuff. I know you're going to be at Mitchell. I know you're going to be there, Mitchell, next week. Hey, by the way, Jonathan, do you want to announce something?
Oh, yes, I can finally announce it. So I think about a week or two ago, we mentioned it briefly, but
Yeah.
I accepted a position with KOB4 in Albuquerque, the NBC station there. I'll be working as a digital producer there, so doing their web and social media content. So it's exciting.
Awesome. Yeah, good. Yeah, nice, man. It's of course, my big announcement last week, and then yours. Well, I made mine a few weeks ago, but it's definitely good to see. You'll be heading down to New Mexico during the off week, and we'll see. Maybe see. I don't know. I like this 3-person setup. So yeah, it's we might stick with this. Tends to do that. Tends to stick with that. But anyway. For Mitchell Brewer, Jonathan Thiel, I'm Casey Campbell. We'll see you later and enjoy the races in New Hampshire this week. And we'll talk to you in 2 weeks at Watkins Glen.